Have you heard about synthetic data? It's very new in the marketing world. There are a couple of companies who are doing some really interesting things. And what it is this idea, hey, wait, hold on. I'm James Ellis. How you doing? I'm from Employer Brand Labs, and this is the next step. The podcast, the video podcast that helps recruiters, employer branders, and talent leaders take the next step by leveraging off-the-shelf AI. How do we all get better at our jobs? How do we be more effective? How are we seen as experts and useful and insanely valuable at work using the $20 a month tools that we probably have access already? That's what we're talking about today. And specifically today, we're talking about synthetic panels, synthetic data. Before I get into this, no, ChatGPT has paid me nothing for this. If you'd like to sponsor this, hi, how you doing? Find me. Otherwise, this is brought to you by Employer Brand Labs, which is my company, and it's not really sponsored because it's me, and I am Employer Brand Labs, and I try not to get too far into it. That's a therapy thing more than anything else, but that's neither here nor there. If you'd like to talk more about employer branding and see how this kind of work can help your employer branding for way less money than you think, come find Employer Brands over at employerbrandlabs.com, or just find me on LinkedIn because I'm always on LinkedIn. Anyway, today we're going to talk about synthetic data. So synthetic data is this idea that if you wanted to learn something about what people want, normally you'd have to go out and find 1,000 of those people and ask them. Now, for some people, like college students, that is so easy. A $5 gift certificate to Starbucks will get them to answer any questions you have. But what if you're talking about CEOs, doctors, people who have regulatory issues? They're not allowed to talk to people. What if we're talking people who are relatively hard to find, or people who are so in demand and so busy that you really have to pony up the cash to get them to spend any kind of time? And by the way, the data on survey data is that 20 to 40% of it is garbage anyway, because at some point people get bored with the survey and they just go, B. Can I be done with this, please? Can I just get this out of here? And so it's complicated and expensive and hard, and that's why we never think about it, usually. Now, there are a handful of companies that do this on a regular basis and a handful of large companies that can afford to use that kind of data, but this is the next step, and that's not how we do things. We look for cheap, effective, efficient, useful solutions that we can do today, and that's what we're going to do today. With me over here is my co-host today. It's ChatGPT, who has not paid me anything, and the OpenAI hasn't paid me anything for this, but this is the tool we're going to use. So what we're going to do is build what's referred to as a synthetic panel. That is, we're going to manufacture personas of people we want to appeal to in our hiring, right? We can't find a bunch of doctors because they're hard to reach and expensive, and we don't have the time to kind of put that together. So what we can do is manufacture a bunch of fake doctors based on existing data and have ChatGPT kind of manufacture those personas, and then we can ask them questions like, hey, does our career site suck? For example, yeah, is there anything missing? Is there anything useful here? Now, if you're an employer brander, this should have your eyes lighting up. This should get the gears turning. And let me show you. This is fairly straightforward to do. This said, and it is straightforward, but the prompts are really, really messy and long. So I will not show you exactly all the prompts because we'd be here forever if I had to read them, but I will copy and paste these and stick them in a doc somewhere and make them available to people who subscribe to the newsletter or watch it on YouTube, okay? So you can see the actual prompts I'm using, but today I'm going to walk you through the thinking and the process of what's going on. Bear in mind, I went up some blind alleys on this, so I'm showing you the truncated version so you don't have to waste your time like I did. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, hey, ChatGPT, I need you to build a synthetic panel. And it's going to, and I said, hey, can you tell me how to do that? Yes, I love it. You can ask it for its own instructions. It says, yeah. And it gave me a couple of different versions. It gave me the one-shot quick start version. It gave me a 30 to 45-minute version, and it gave me really advanced stuff. We don't have this kind of time, so we're going to do a one-shotter. And the one-shotter is real simple. What we're saying is, hey, please simulate 8 distinct candidates, and we'll give it some information. Stay within the provided materials. If we don't have any data, say, or you can't find anything, say unknown. Provide results in JSON. And JSON, if you don't know, is a very simple data structure that ChatGPT flippin' loves, the internet loves. It's used all over the place. If you have never heard of it, I understand, but if you trust me, your web people have absolutely heard of it. They're using it a lot. It's probably how your ATS and your website are connected. Just saying. And be concise, specific, and useful for rewrites. Hey, let's build some users. Let's give it some information. Let's give it a company. Let's give it some roles we're targeting. Let's give it some any kind of information about what it's like to work there. Let's give it what kind of stage are we targeting and any kind of proof points we have. And it came up with some personas. We want a builder, an optimizer, an explorer, a caregiver, and a climber, and a mission first. Now, this is something that if you're doing this for real, I'd go in and I kind of tweak this. I'd say, okay, we're really focusing on builders, optimizers, and explorers, and caregivers and mission firsters, not so much. Your mileage will vary. You got to make that decision. Remember, AI doesn't make the decisions. You make the decisions. AI is just going to do all the legwork for you. Then you're going to paste in the artifact. The artifact can be the URL of the website. It can be all the copy document that you have. It can be the job posting, whatever. You grab all of this, all the way through here. And like I said, I will paste this and you dump it in ChatGPT. And I'm going to swap tabs to show you what I did. Now I'm using Zekelman Industries, who I don't know very well. In fact, I don't know at all. I just happen to be connected to someone at Zekelman who recently connected to me on LinkedIn. So, hey, surprise, you're on YouTube. Because why not? I'm thinking about a lot of civil engineering and construction anyway, because some of my clients, and I figured, hey, let's just do a deep dive. This would be really useful. So we just pasted what that previous prompt was, and now I'm just filling it in. Here's the company. Here are the roles I'm looking for: electricians, electrical tech, project engineers, and architectural designers. They're based in Chicago, so Chicago. Let's keep it to consideration because I figure if they're going to come to the career site, they're considering. Makes sense to me. Proof bank, here's the career site. Personas, I'm leaving it as is, and here's the artifact. So if I had more information, let's say I did a big intake, let's say I did a bunch of data research and learned more about them, or did a bunch of surveys, or even interviewed some people or a focus group, I might dump that into the proof bank section. There's some ways of kind of taking more advantage of this, but this is a quick and down and dirty way of saying, hey, is my career site doing what I want to do to talk to the people I actually want to talk to? And the rest of it, I'll let it roll. And it went and it did a bunch of stuff and it returned a bunch of JSON like I asked it to, which of course is really hard to read. So then I was like, oh, geez, I don't want to deal with JSON. Look, I'm going to go blind. So I went back to the original one. I said, hey, let's see. I'm running the quick start. What do I do next? And it gave me a bunch of instructions and I kind of went, whoa. Hold on there. Where was the instructions? Oh, here. Yeah. I said, what do I do with this? Oh, here. How do I turn the JSON into something that's easy to read and understand? And it gave me the instructions on exactly what to do. So I grabbed this prompt and I pasted the JSON it returned in the previous response there. And that's what this is. And now it's going to churn on all that JSON. It's going to make, which makes no sense to me. And it's going to say, oh, here's the answer. Hey, here's what's working. Here's what's not working. Here's what you have to fix. Right now, it's doing a great job talking about a career you can believe in. Okay. For this audience, that it's working for them, we might want to throw at a couple of other competitors to say, look, if everybody says build a career you can believe in, maybe it's not working. But right now it's kind of focused on, based on what I know about this audience, would this kind of play? And it seems to kind of play. Gaps are Chicago specific openings. Hey, if this is a Chicago company, it's not clear that where these jobs are. Role level detail, that's good, that's useful, that's stuff we should be doing. And then we can add persistent total package benefits into all this stuff. Then it comes up with some scores with blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, this is what's working, this is what's not working. Line edits. Hey, instead of saying search all jobs, maybe search Chicago jobs. And I, again, don't know anything about this company. So I'm just kind of grabbing bare facts about what's based on LinkedIn. Maybe they don't have Chicago jobs. Maybe Chicago just happens to be where they're based. I know they've got a lot of other jobs or projects there, but it's suggesting ways to be more attractive to the personas we've identified, which in this case was the electrician, electrical tech, and the designer and the project engineer, something like that. Things you could say, 9 dynamic companies, list them, generic benefits mentioned. Okay. So it's saying, hey, don't be so generic about that stuff. State-of-the-art equipment, be more specific, talk about exactly what state-of-the-art looks like. Vague growth, a tech ladder, talk about what people do when they get there. How do they grow? Experience to add, safety, equipment, work model. This is really useful stuff. And then here are the actual persona reactions. So Luis, who, if we looked up in the persona, would say what that role is. It says, okay, he likes the fact that it's local. He likes the fact that it's modern. He's hesitating because it's not clear on safety. The headline, keep Chicago powered, build what builds the city, would make sense to him. Again, I don't know that this is a Chicago only kind of company. Asha likes the automation investment, hesitating on the training, wants to know, how are you going to train me? Boom, 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 boom. We could even detail this more and say, okay, list the personas and their job titles so we can actually kind of break this down. This is giving me someone who knows nothing about this company. And let's be fair, what I know about construction and civil engineering, not a huge amount. Like, I've never done the job. I've done a couple of interviews, but I don't consider myself an expert in this in any way, shape, or form. Very quickly, I'm seeing this is what my target audiences are seeing, what they like, and what they don't. This is synthetic data. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the future. And it's a future that we just paid $20 for. I know, right? You can make this go way deeper. This is just a first pass. This is how quick can I put this together, show you what it can do to get your gears turning? Because as I said before, AI is not a tool. AI is a skill. You've got to ask for it. And what you don't see here is that before I got to the part about saying, hey, I know, I'll talk about synthetic panels and synthetic data, I asked it, ChatGPT, give me 21 unusual uses of AI in employer branding. I forced it to go out of the box. And this was literally like the third one it came up with. And I'm like, ooh, I know about synthetic data. I've been listening to a really good podcast about synthetic data. I'm super interested in this stuff. Yes, let's try it out. And 20 minutes later, here we are. I have good fake data about these people. Now, if you're saying, James, these are fake people, how much can you trust them? Well, I wouldn't let them do surgery on me if that's what you're asking. But let's remember, if you are comparing this to live data, go take a survey, go get 1,000 people or 100 people to take a survey. 20 to 30% of that stuff is garbage because they're bored. They don't like this data. They don't like the question. They're just in it for the Starbucks gift card, whatever. The data you think is bedrock and foundational, it isn't. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You want to get nuts on how survey data is really problematic. We could do that all day, son. And for the one person who likes the new girl jokes, there we are. This is just as good and it's way faster. And if it's going to be a question of, I've got a boss or I've got a leader in my stakeholder group about my career site who is digging their heels in about, I don't like that language, or I think it should be this. This is a really fast way to say, one, this ain't about you there, buddy. Two, this is what our target audience cares about. Three, we need to talk to them. You already have a job. These are the people we're trying to hire. Let's speak to them. And the very fact that you come up and said, well, I ran some synthetic data panels and this is what I learned, is going to stop conversation in that meeting like you would not believe. It will, as if you said, well, I went to Mars and I brought back a rock. You want to see what it looks like? Turns out it's not as red as you thought it was going to be. That will stop the conversation and you are suddenly looking like a flippin' genius. Do you want that? I bet you do. I bet you do. I know I want it for you. So I will make sure to grab these prompts and stick it in a Google Doc or something or a PDF so you can easily download it and scrape it. But the truth is, I just used ChatGPT and I asked it to lead me through and I asked it to explain things. I said, okay, this JSON you gave me, what am I supposed to do with it? What is it? Is this the end result? Is this a process document? What is this? Remember, you can always say, hey, hey, ChatGPT, explain this to me like I'm 10. You can always have it simplify things for you so it makes more sense so that you can go, oh, I understand what we're doing here. I understand how this works. And you can apply your really big old brain to how this works. Now, if this looks like garbage and you're like, this doesn't work for me, try it again with your data. Give it a shot and see what you come up with. And you get to validate. And you can say, yeah, that sounds like the stuff that we hear. And now I'm getting further evidence that this is not what one person says, but this is pretty common, because the truth is that's where ChatGPT is getting all this information. It's pulling its understanding of these audiences together, sorting by, okay, let's just only talk to the electricians and electrical techs who fit this kind of model, this persona, and ask them the questions. Would I go so far as to say, is this a good brand or not a brand? No. Again, you're not using them to make decisions. You're using them to provide a lot of brainstorming information, a lot more perspectives than you can kind of keep in your head all at once. That's the power of this thing. And again, it makes you look like a flippin' genius, and you gotta love that. All right. Anybody else's head about to explode? Not just me. I don't think it's just me. I think if once you kind of get your head around this sort of thing and you realize what you can do with this, yeah, we're in a whole new ball game. So look, if you want to talk about AI or you want to talk about employer branding and you want to bring someone like me in to help work on this stuff with you, come find employerbrandlabs.com. Like I said, I'm here to help you perform in a way that's completely cost effective to you. Otherwise, the other big news, I got this other series I'm running. I did one, I think Tuesday, with Rocky Howard. I'm doing it every week or so. It's a big old conversation where I let my quote unquote co-host kind of talk, and then I kind of follow up with some, here's what that means for employer branding. Right now, the first one went really, really well. It's on YouTube. I'll put a link in the email I sent. Keep an eye out for those. That's a LinkedIn Live, and then later it shows up on YouTube. So keep an eye out on that stuff. And if you're not subscribed, why not? Why not? You got employerbrandheadlines.substack.com. That is how you subscribe to the next step. I know the URL is stupid. I just can't change it. And I'm got grand plans for 2026. I may get out of Substack altogether. We'll see. So that's what's going on. So please, if this is useful stuff, let me know. Let somebody else know. Subscribe, like it, share it, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your parents. They won't understand, but that's okay. Tell everybody you can. Let them know that this is useful stuff and that this is how we're going to use AI to make talent acquisition as an industry infinitely more valuable to the company. Instead of just kind of messing around, suddenly we're accessing tools that make our work perform at a far, far higher level, making us look incredibly valuable, which we are. All right. I'm James Ellis. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week on The Next Step.